space for a little bit of time on a Saturday night, coming in for a soft landing after a hard and crazy week, and just seeing everything going on around us, getting busier and busier through the end of the year, and just taking a little bit of time for ourselves to see what kind of healing we need to give ourselves right now. My name is Deborah Devine, and I welcome you to spending a little bit of time in your own healing circle so that you can feel better. As I say in the description, this is a time when there are a lot of challenges people are going through, and we are real people having real problems, and we want our yoga practice to meet us where we are instead of trying to make us do some things that maybe we're just not able to at this time, because we're not going to be able to do the splits and do really difficult poses, because our injuries, our lifestyles just do not really jive with that. So how can we find a practice that is going to help us through everyday life, through the things that we're doing in terms of our work, how our work is impacting our physical bodies, our mental and emotional bodies. If you think about the koshas, the sheaths of energy, and the interactions that we have with people, all of these things have an impact on us, and everybody has a unique pattern that we start to have awareness of. And so just sort of taking the time before I do my practice to say, where am I at right now, and identifying what's going on. So if I just go through the process right now, I think about my sitting patterns in my office. My hips, the front of my hips are tight from sitting, and my shoulders are not really in alignment with the rest of the body. My arms are moving forward, so I'm getting a lot of tightness through the front of the chest. I've recently had a little bit of a back problem that I've been working through, and I feel so positive and so happy that I've come as far as I have after several weeks of being in a lot of discomfort, and just again, knowing that I've got my yoga practice that I can fall back on anytime. It's always there for me, like a life raft, a lifeboat. And it feels so good that I can think about all of these different things that are going on with my body, my shoulders, my neck, and I can incorporate different poses that are going to help me achieve a little bit of diminishing of the discomfort of those symptoms. My neck and my shoulders, particularly right now. My low back is doing really well right now. I feel very happy about that. But lack of circulation from sitting for too long. And then there's also the emotional and mental components. What kinds of interactions we've been having with people. Has there been, an exchange of ideas and a feeling of upliftment or expansion of some sort, or is it sort of more dark and sort of, uncomfortable and a little bit, hesitant, or a little bit nerve-wracking? What is the nature of the other inputs that we have coming into our lives through people that we love, through, people that we see around us, through the content that we consume, through the work experiences with our colleagues, or with clients and customers and whatnot. So bosses and whatnot. So all of these things also have an impact on all of us. And I can totally identify with the idea that there's a lot of pressure on people to perform. There's a lot of pressure to do more with less. There's a lot of pressure around time. There's a lot of nervousness around what the industry happenings are. And, all of that sort of seeps into our consciousness and shows up as things in our body as well. So I'd be thinking about, taking shorter breaths, right? So the shorter breaths are part of this kind of, hunched over a laptop, or, devicing and whatnot. That sort of lends itself to exacerbating that idea of shortening the breath and not being able to get as much oxygen to the brain as we desperately need. And then also, it's just furthering that instinct that we have, the the fetal position that we would go into when we're scared. The hip flexors are very, active. And then with the sitting involved, and I also just, want to point out that idea of being on the forefoot, being on the front of our feet instead of being sort of back on our heels, where we can kind of ground ourselves and kind of take a few moments, take a few deep breaths. It's all like, up here. So all of these mental and emotional things also have an impact on what's going on with the body. So taking that into consideration as well. I like to figure out what I need to give myself, and that's sort of the creative process that I went through when I was putting together the healing yoga episodes. Healing yoga for real people with real problems, airing on One TV in Canada, and just the idea of all of these different people coming on the show. All of them have unique different things that they're dealing with, and we're addressing all of these issues through our yoga practice. We've got half an hour that we can do some stuff, and what can we do? Even though there's so much more, there's just a wide open, horizon of other aspects of yoga that we can be pursuing. There's the spiritual aspect, meditation on sacred scriptures, studying some of the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali and really kind of opening your mind to that. There's the other aspect of just meditating for mindfulness, meditating to be in the present moment without a spiritual, a pursuit aspect, just being more in the present moment. There are also, the other practices around breathing. One of my key topics that I'm going to be talking a lot more about, that idea of different breathing practices can have different experiences on our nervous system and can help us achieve balance, the promise of yoga, balance. And then also the other Ayurvedic practices, the science of health, so many thousands of years, hundreds of years of rich, time-tested solutions, things like keeping hydrated, self-massage, so simple, but that definitely gets the circulation going. Dry brushing, all of these sorts of things. The eating practices, how keeping the stomach 75% full and 25% not full after your meal is done, so that you don't have too much to eat, and then that allows your body to absorb the nutrients more effectively without the liver being overloaded. Like all of these really interesting thoughts that they would have hundreds of years ago are panning out on the science side, and how there's a whole range of different things that are so fascinating in terms of looking at our personal healing path, our healing journey. But I'm just going to right now talk a little bit about breath, a little bit about some poses, and then I just want to kind of take care of myself. I've got maybe half an hour or whatnot. I want to welcome you. Sorry, I'm not really very good at having a little bit of trouble reading your names, but I just want to welcome you to the kind of a practice that allows you to take a moment to find out what you need, and then think about putting together a personal practice that sort of manages that. So it would be easy for you to just watch Healing Yoga. You can look at the YouTube channel, Healing Yoga YouTube channel, or subscribe to One Television. That is, 110 different episodes of all of these different scenarios, physical issues, emotional, mental challenges, a lot of different material that is so unique to all of these different stages of our lives. Arthritis, being an aging athlete, we're all in different places through time, and different things are showing up for us all the time. So our yoga practice can be a dynamic amalgamation of all of our favorite poses that we know what those poses have as an effect on us. Tonight I'm just, thinking out loud right now for myself. I really need to stretch my hamstrings. The backs of my legs have been really, and that's part of this sitting, right? So part of this is compressed. There's no circulation. The muscles start to, get hungry for nourishment, for prana, for life force, for nutrients, for lymphatic drainage, getting rid of the old stuff. And then I want to be thinking about, activating my glutes and helping my low back because of my, journey to, get through a lot this year. I'm so proud of myself, and I hope you're proud of yourself, of all the things that you've had to work through this year. And now here you are, still standing, even though last week I really wasn't still standing at all. But yeah, I got hit by a bike. I was hit on my bike by a car, not once, but twice. And then, I tried to lift up a 50-pound bag of potatoes before that, and something, happened to my back. And then I wasn't really, taking it all the way and getting outside help. I was kind of trying to figure out my own problems. And I'm so glad with collaborating with somebody who I trust. And then all of a sudden, I feel like almost 100%. But that could change at any time. And I want to make sure that I'm activating my glutes and that I'm getting my erector muscles, getting them active, being able to think about, as I say, miss bending and lifting. This lifting of the potatoes was just like so wrong on every level. And there was all of this action. There was a big gale force wind. It was swirling around, and my coat was open. I was freezing cold, and somebody else was distracting me. I wasn't paying attention, and I was living with the wrong part of my body. So now, going through that experience, learning the lesson, getting to a point where I feel really strong. Okay, good. I'm going to very gently, work some bridges into my poses. I'm going to work some Supta Pada Uttanasana hamstring stretches. I'm going to work some bridge in there. So I'm stretching my hamstrings. I'm also going to be contracting them. And there's going to be this wonderful, accordion of all of this fresh energy into the back line of the body. I also really want to be working on my shoulders and my arms, my arm strength. So I might do a couple of ups and overs with my handy dandy scarf that's holding my hot water bottle for my back. And I want to work on the neck and the head. And I think what I want to be doing is I want to be putting some blankets down, and I want to be pressing my head back into my into the blankets to kind of create a little bit of a sense of, activating these muscles that have been stretched out this way, contracting this way, bringing the head toward the back plane of the body, strengthening and activating all of the back plane of the body. That's the physical aspect of it. Then I want to be thinking about the emotional and mental aspect of it. This is the year that I talk about I have to stand up for myself, and I have to be strong for myself, and I have to show up for myself, and I have to be there. And I think that we forget about the back line of the body. And this health practitioner that I've been talking with and working with, we were just talking about how this is the area that, needs the attention when we're healing from a back injury like I've had. And there is an emotional aspect, the support that we have in the back. We forget we're all up in the front and we're kind of striving forward, but just coming into the back plane of the body, activating the biggest muscles of the body, and feeling how strong we can feel standing in Tadasana as the mountain. And the back of the mountain is just as important as the sides and the front of the mountain. So just really claiming all of the space that we have around our bodies and using that to help us feel powerful, empowered. And then, just the idea of some scalp massage, because I wear my hair in a bun, and I love doing that, but it does pull, and there's tension there, and then that tension can build up. So doing a little bit of daily massage around my jaws, because I wear a mask, and around my temporal area. This is really, a key part of my daily practice that I have to think about. Yeah, I'm going to get in there and work around my ears and stuff, because the elastics from the mask that goes around, and I wear my mask for 8 hours when I'm in a congregated area. And so, and then it becomes really kind of a little bit tight, and a little bit needing a little bit of TLC, a little bit of unwinding some of those muscles. On the emotional front, again, the fear aspect, the nervousness, just watching the news can put you into a bit of a cycle, right? So that would be what I would be thinking about for my practice. I want to incorporate breathing wise. I want to get my Ujjayi, the victorious breath, involved there. I want to get the Bayu Kumbhaka, exhaling completely, because we're all up here. Of course, I'm up here, you know, when I'm talking all day long and I'm thinking about things, and, you know, we're connected to these devices and whatnot. Like, we just never have an opportunity to really ground. And that's what Biokumbaka does. It helps us ground, feel closer to the earth. And of course, I want to be doing the little bit of Kapalabhati. I'd like to do Kapalabhati in the morning more so, to kind of get the shining skull breath, to get, you know, the cobwebs out of the mind, to get the eyes, get a little bit of circulation in you know, all of the sensory organs, so that we can be hearing better and seeing better. So at nighttime, I would be thinking more along the lines of the 3-part exhalation, the interrupted exhalation of Viloma 2. That's what I would be thinking about for myself. So yeah, I don't know. Do you have any comments about what you would be thinking about for yourself? Like, are you thinking about headaches or migraines, or what kinds of things might you be interested in talking about? There are different breathing practices for different types of issues, and, you know, there's the heating ones. You know, after Thanksgiving dinner, you want to be doing the Bastrika, you want to be doing Kapalabhati, you want to be really activating here, you know, especially before dinner, and you can get the fires going. But yeah, there are so many different and amazing physical practices, you know, breathing practices, meditation practices, you know, all kinds of things that are helpful for the real problems that we're all going through right now. So I just want to invite you into thinking about your practices being something that you can put together yourself, something that you can just say, okay, I'm going to spend the next half hour or the next 15 minutes or even just the next 10 minutes to kind of get myself into a place where I can, you know, feel a bit better about the things that I'm going through. So on that note, what I think I'm going to do is take off my wonderful analog hot water bottle and I'm going to put it right here. Actually, I'm going to put it on these blankets, maybe keep it warm, because I love putting a nice hot water bottle on the belly when you're going into Shavasana. So we'll have this on standby in case we do ups and overs. The first thing that I want to do is I'd like to get into a bit of a child's pose, and grounding first, getting a little bit of extension. I'm going to be gentle on my back. Oh my goodness. And then I'm going to lift the wrists, keep the spine nice and extended. I'm going to come over here and give myself a little bit of a stretch on the left. 3 breaths. And then fingers do the walking, coming over the opposite side. So the left side, the left side is the side that I've had a little bit of trouble with. So I might spend a little bit less time here. Maybe I'll just do 2 breaths here. Yeah, that feels like enough, so that's good. Okay. That's it. Okay, now my spine feels a lot more, a lot more, you know, a sense of upliftment. You know, something happened. There was a lot of stuff that let go, and I just feel 3 inches taller right now. Okay, here comes a good yawn. And that is a sign of success, right? Where's my belt? Okay, I can't find my belt right now. I had it upstairs. So now, I guess just use my scarf here. Supta Padangusthasana. Hand to big toe pose. I mean, if you can, take your peace fingers around your big toe and we can go from here. Or you just take a rope, a scarf, put it around the ball of the big toe, ball of the baby toe, the grounding points on the front of the foot. And then we're just going to push up with the heel and the ball of the big toe and the ball of the baby toe, all pressing in. Upper arms rotating externally, lengthening up the neck. Pushing down with this left foot. You can see my left leg is still bent. I'm going to push down there. I'm also going to push down with my head. Remember earlier I was saying I wanted to get some action in the back plane of the body, so I'm going to push down here. And then I'm just going to take a couple of long, slow, smooth, and complete in and out breaths. I don't have to keep my legs straight or strive for being straight. I just want to find out where the boundary is between comfort and discomfort. And then my breaths are going in here. 3 breath cycles. Straight arms, shoulders down. Breathing light and spaciousness deep into all of the things that are calling out for attention there. That's it. Very nice. Okay. Maybe a little bit of constructive rest, rocking back and forth. Very nice. Here comes another yawn. Fantastic, fantastic. That means my diaphragm is starting to get back to normal. Let's go for the left side. This is going to be a totally different leg, and it's going to be in a totally different position. You know, this leg is a little bit of a challenge. I'm not getting as much internal rotation with this leg. That's part of that story of the back on the left side. And that's okay. I'm just going to do what I can do right now. The arms are strong, taking the reins. Shoulder blades are moving down the back and pressing back. We want the arm bones to go back. And then, you know, if that's pulling on us too much, we just give ourselves a little bit more rope, a little bit more space. This right foot, I want this right foot to be resting down there. I want to push down on the right foot. I'm going to lengthen the back of the neck and then push into the back of the head. Ah, very nice. Now, that pressure into the ground is just feeling that everything I'm using in energy to push down through these points is bouncing back up through the foot here. So it's becoming a little bit easier for me to have a little bit of action going in the opposite direction there. And balance. As Newton says, the equal and opposite action to the pushing the foot up through the ball of the big toe, ball of the baby toe, and the heel, finding out where the place is, because I'm just letting my left femur kind of settle down in my hip socket. There's a lot of holding, a ton of holding around here. So I just want to give myself the time I need to feel that things are going into place. In the meantime, you know, letting the foot be active. And then beginning. Long, slow, smooth in breath. Long, slow, smooth out breath. Letting the sit bone come down and point toward the grounded foot. That's it. Wow. Oh my gosh, that was perfect. Oh, that was exactly what I needed there. Wow. You know, there's a lot to be said for pushing and striving, but there's also a lot to be said for just taking it easy and staying on, the comfort side of that boundary between comfort and discomfort. You know, there's a little bit of coming up to the boundary and sort of living in the boundary for a bit, and then using the breath to breathe light and spaciousness into those areas where we can't seem to go any further, and then using the exhalation to move all of that excess energy down and out. And that just creates all of this, drawing in of fresh fluid. Fresh, I can literally feel that my hip is so much more fluid in its movement as a result of just those 3 breaths. Wow. Okay. That was really lovely. I'm going to do another little bit of constructive rest, the B variation. This is a nice way to, approach pigeon without needing it to be really super complicated. I like to get my bolsters involved with my pigeon and hang out there for a while. But the moving back and forth and breathing, trying to give the seed of the pigeon in the glutes, in the piriformis, all of that stuff that really we need. I need that for my bridge, but we need all of that external rotation and the internal rotation to keep the muscles of the glutes all kind of together. And the glutes and the other ones that are in there, the obturator and the gemellus and all of the other ones. Oh yeah. And especially after going through a little bit of a healing process and not having access to all of my regular things that I do, noticing how my body is responding to that. And of course, as I'm aging, I'm definitely seeing that, yeah, things that, might have taken a day or two to resolve now are taking 2 or 3 days, 3 or 4 days. So it's all right. It's just nice to notice that and then to respond appropriately. Improve my risk management. That potato situation is never going to happen again. This feels like a really different pose than on the other side, so I'm finding this very interesting. And they're noticing all the different little imbalances in my back architecture, the bones and the muscles, and how my hips are articulating with the heads of the femurs, or the femurs articulating with the heads of the into the hip sockets. It feels a little bit different on each side, so that's good to know. Another yawn. So these guys are going to get stretched out, and I'm going to do it in a nice, gentle way. But first, I think I want to do a couple of downward dogs. Do a couple of downward dogs with some leg variations.